there. Okay, let's move on to the NBA. James Harden recently said, hey, at full strength, nobody can beat us. Well, according to Fox Bet Sportsbook, the Nets have the best title odds for next season. So, Rick, should the Nets be the title favorites?
No, they shouldn't be the title favorites. I understand why the odds makers might make them the title favorites, but no, they should not be the title favorites. The Milwaukee Bucks should be the title favorites. Not just because they're the defending champions, they're the reigning champions.
Oh, my gosh.
But there's every reason to believe that the Milwaukee Bucks will actually be better next year.
Tell us,
everybody's sleeping on that. I get it. They're looking at the Brooklyn Nets. They went to 7 games with the eventual champions. They only had Kevin Durant left, and it was, as I hear over and over again, if he had size 16s rather than size 17s, then it would have been a different story. And once James Harden and Kyrie Irving are back, then they're the overwhelming favorite. I get why everybody's making that case, but I just don't agree with it. One, because I'm not convinced at this point still that we're going to see all 3 of those guys together at the finish line. And I still don't believe that when you have all 3 of them together, that defensively, when it comes down to the later rounds, when defense matters, that they're capable of playing the kind of defense that they need to play. But perhaps most important, it's the fact that we are looking at a completely different Giannis Antetokounmpo now than we did at any time last season. When we came into the season, we weren't talking about Giannis as arguably the best player in the league. Now that is very much a conversation between Giannis and Kevin Durant. 10 executives who voted 5 for each are proof positive of that. And so I look at Giannis, and yes, he improved over the course of the season to put himself in that conversation, and he still has room to grow. I look at the rest of the Bucks. They lost P.J. Tucker. P.J. Tucker, to me, was on the downhill slide and was really of minimal consequence in them winning the championship anyway. They had a very thin roster, basically played 7 guys, Pat Connaughton and Bobby Portis off the bench. They re-signed Bobby Portis. They added Rodney Hood. They added Grayson Allen. They have more depth than they had before. So they bring back this contingent that knows how to win it all, that has the confidence that we've gotten through everything, including closing out a series without Giannis Antetokounmpo. There is nothing that is going to dent their confidence or their belief that they understand what it takes to win a championship. That is one vital ingredient that the Brooklyn Nets do not have. For all of their talent, how do we play together in order to be the best team? And they have not demonstrated that they understand that yet, much less have had the ability to simply practice or search for that answer. So when I put it all together, I understand. I understand exactly why everybody out there, and perhaps a couple people on the show with me right now, are full on with the Brooklyn Nets. I get it. I understand.
Come on, Rabbit.
I'm just telling you, you're wrong.
Tell us all about it before we tell you about it. Come on, Rabbit.
The disrespect for P.J. Tucker, the disrespect.
I wrote that one down.
Lord.
P.J. Tucker, down.
I like P.J. Tucker. P.J. Tucker's best days firmly behind him.
Downslide.
I would argue P.J. Tucker was
the catalyst.
A huge reason why they won that series.
Against Brooklyn.
Massive reason why.
I'm glad you said that.
It was a huge reason why KD was actually lighting them up.
Sometimes you got to step up to the bully and let him know he's not a bully.
Let's not make this about P.J. Tucker.
Okay, well,
P.J. Tucker doesn't deserve that much attention.
No, but I do think it is a loss, and you keep talking about defense, and P.J. Tucker is a good defender. He's one of the dogs on that team. I agree with you about Giannis. Giannis has leveled up. He erased all of the questions that anybody had about his game, and overall, I think that the Bucks should get a lot of respect as title contenders again this season, which they are. They have the 3rd best odds. However, LeBron James and Anthony Davis are still in the Lakers, which is why they have the 2nd best odds. However, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving are still on the Brooklyn Nets, which is why they have the best odds to win the championship and why I do think that they should be favorites. Yes, you can dismiss the toe thing, Kevin Durant's shoe on the line, and what would we be talking about. I don't like playing woulda, coulda, shoulda. The way it happened is the way it happens. They won, they lost, we have a champion, the end. But that doesn't mean to disregard history, right? It did happen the way it happens, and they were there. It's a game of inches So it matters that they were there without being healthy. They are back in the second year. There were a lot of questions about the Brooklyn Nets. How was all this going to work? Was Harden going to fit? What kind of leader was KD going to be? Well, if they're all healthy, I think they're going to answer them, and they're going to show why they should be the favorites. It's no disrespect to the Milwaukee Bucks, but listen, all those beautiful buildings in Vegas weren't built from winners, okay? So there's a reason why they are the favorites this year, and it's because they have Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. And if we're going into the season assuming that all these teams are healthy, they should be the favorites. They have 3 superstars. They are the super team. And healthy, I don't know who really can beat them. The defense thing is great, right? We always talk about defense, and it showed throughout the postseason this year that having a couple good defenders can really make a difference. But at the end of the day, it's also who scores the most points. And Kevin Durant is the most unstoppable scorer in the NBA. You can argue about who's the best player, but KD is still that dude. So I'm going with the Brooklyn Nets as the favorites. I don't think it's outrageous. Now, the Bucks aren't far behind. They have the 3rd best odds, so it's not like they're being disrespected. But I do think that the loss of PJ Tucker is bigger than people are going to make it out to be. Clearly, you don't, Rick. But the Nets also signed Patty Mills. They re-signed Blake Griffin, which there were a lot of questions about how much value he brought. But I do think he answers some questions about what he's still capable of and brings to the Nets. So we'll see. But I think if they're all healthy, that's going to be a pretty unstoppable team. And when you look at super teams in their second year, they tend to level up.
I mean, we're looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as being a Super Bowl favorite for this year. And why? Because you're bringing back the same cast and characters that did it. When I look at this team, they're going to be better the second year out, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be. You know why? Because they got that first year in. They played 14 games together, 14. And in that 14 games, they only lost 3. Only lost 3. Now, here's the more interesting statistic that I think. When you look at their total record, they went 48-24 during the regular season. Rick, do you know where that ranked in the East? Second.
Imagine that's at the top.
East. That was
second. Okay.
Second in the East. You know who that was ahead of? The Bucks. So it's interesting because 14 games, that's total.
We are talking about the regular season, right? We're not talking about the playoff. We're not talking
14,
about
we're talking
the more
14.
important part of the season. We're talking about the regular season.
Okay.
They're
that's
regular
fine.
season champions.
What I'm not going to do, I'm not going to diminish the brilliance and the greatness of Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to say is, was this a vital moment to the legacy of Giannis in terms of winning an NBA championship based off of a crippled team? And the answer would be yes. Steve Nash did a heck of a job trying to get them through when guys were not healthy. If they come back healthy, and we're basing this off of ifs and buts, right? If ifs were fifths, we're basing this off of ifs. If the Brooklyn Nets come back healthy, they have to be only second to the Lakers, as Joy mentioned, the favorites to win it. You have 2 of the most prolific scorers in the history of the game, and 3 overall of the most prolific scorers in the game today, right now. You only need 2 to be able to win. We're talking about you only need 2 in L.A. They were the favorites because you're talking about 2 prolific scorers. And some would argue that the 2 prolific scorers in L.A. are not even close to being as prolific as the 2 or 3 that are in Brooklyn. So to me, when you look at this team and you have those other pieces that are in play, that are there, how are you going to stop them night in and night out? And once you get to the playoffs, how are you going to stop a team that boasts 3 scorers that can score anywhere on the court at any given point in time? It doesn't happen that way. And